hardware working group. This is the, I think, third or fourth one now. I don't quite remember. It's been a while since we've had one, but we're hoping to start this up as a regular monthly meeting, and hopefully we can really build a cadence off this. And that I think will make us more effective overall. This was something that was suggested to me at the Node Collaborator Summit that was a month or two ago. And since it's been a while, I kind of just want us to sort of regroup, talk about kind of where we are, get our place, and sort of get kind of a game plan moving forward. So the things that I remember we've been looking into in the past, of course, Node serial port is our biggest focus. And so Jacob, this is something I think you can talk a little more about. Do you have anything you'd like to say about Node serial port, where we are right now with libuv, things like that?
I don't have too much to say. When I'm in the report, a lot of talk about impending IO4. I think there's some NAN issues myself. So I think they're going to have to. I think we'd be kind of pushing against doing any kind of
I'm sorry, Jacob, you started breaking up again. Do you think you could maybe type it? Thank you. Not surprising. And NAND 3 came with IOJS 4, right? Do I remember that correctly? And then NAND 2 was IOJS 3. In any case, it's definitely something that we will need to sort through at some point in time, just since this is actually Node 4. But I suspect that uptake on Node 4 will be kind of slow at first, but we'll see. Do you know if getting NAND 3 support is that kind of a priority for Node serial report right now, or is that more on the back burner? Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things, we would like to get rid of. Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any context for what you guys are talking about? I'm completely new here. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry, my mistake. So, with the hardware working group, what we've decided is our primary focus is to try to get rid of the basically the native module issue. Native modules have a lot of problems because you have to either pre-build everything distributed by like Node pre-JIT, but that's kind of chasing a moving target. It's hard to get complete coverage across the entire support matrix. And then of course things break, especially when new Node first hits. We're always a little behind. And that's a real pain point for users because then they have to compile from source, and especially on Windows devices where you have to install Visual Studio, and then installing a simple module to do robotics all of a sudden becomes this huge ordeal. So we feel that's just native modules are our biggest pain point, and so we want to find some way to make that better. And we've been investigating a variety of different approaches, and we've decided to focus on like Node serial report, getting rid of that build step one way or another. Has been kind of our priority right now. Does that answer your question?
So you're just talking about Node serial port, not necessarily native modules across all of Node.js, or?
Right, we are kind of focused on that right now. I mean, if we can come up with a general solution, then we would like to be a part of that conversation, and we have had those conversations. But also, if there are things we can do specifically for Node serial port, we're interested in that as well. We're trying to take sort of a multi-pronged approach to this.
Okay.
But of course, right now, we're still working in the existing system. So until we have some other solution in place, we want to make sure that we're trying to keep up with NAND and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I agree, Jacob, with what you typed. It is so new. I mean, convergence. Actually, I feel like we converged faster than I was expecting. I was expecting the end of this year, so it kind of caught me a little off guard as well, which is a good problem to have. I'm really happy that convergence was able to happen as fast as it did. But now we have to catch
Let me
up.
try again. Can you hear me?
Reasonably, still breaking up some. It might be better for you to just type during this one. Oh, okay. Okay, great. I haven't been following it closely recently, but so one of the approaches that we want to take long term is there is a pull request open against libuv that actually adds in support for some various I/O control calls. That right now the reason we have a native module at all is because we just can't quite do everything we need to do in pure JavaScript. But if we can get this libuv pull request in and then get that into Node, then that means that Node serial port itself doesn't need any native module at all. So that's another approach. I haven't looked at the current status of this, though. Sandeep, off the top of your head, do you happen to know what the status is of that one?
No, I haven't been following Node serial port.
Okay, yeah. But that's the thing that's out there, so we should probably follow up and look at that. Jacob, have you been following that at all? I can't remember who said that. It might have been Donovan who's been following that, and then he's not here today. All right, I'll make it an action for me to follow up with Donovan after this and see if we can figure out where the current status of that is. And so a few other things, Christopher, that we've looked into for this is we looked into using FFI. So of course that would give us pure JavaScript, assuming that we could do something with the FFI native module. We found that performance just, it was too much for performance hit. Of course, you take a big performance hit with FFI. And given that we sometimes run on embedded devices where there's just really not a lot of extra headroom for performance, we decided that wasn't really an option either, unfortunately. And this is something we would like to get a general solution to eventually, because there are some other hardware platforms that have native modules as well, like for the Raspberry Pi and the BeagleBone, they have some native code. So, solving Node serial port won't help those, but they're much less as concerns. They aren't nearly as widely spread as Node serial port is. Yes, Jacob, that is the one which links to the libuv pull request itself. Or to a different issue. There is, where is it?
So a quick Google for FFI shows me a lot of things that aren't what you're talking about. So what are you talking about?
Oh, yeah, sure. Let me pull up that link real quick. So the specific package we're talking about here is this one. Oh, Chris, sure, my apologies. So NodeFFI in this specific context is a way for us to make calls to C functions directly from JavaScript without having to have any sort of intermediate layer. And so with this module, it's really handy because now this FFI itself has a native component to it, so you still have to compile that. But if we could perhaps get that into Node.js, which some people are discussing right now, then that's a way to get around the compile step. Or at the very least, we can focus on having just one single native module to worry about instead of a whole bunch. And it could get us some places. The way it basically works is you sort of instantiate an instance of a library. So I mean, you literally say, create a new FFI object that has this library that's whatever the linker name for that library is. And then you can sort of just define the interfaces for all of the functions you want to call, and then you can just invoke those. So it's kind of a dynamic way of, it's a lot like working with DLLs, if you've ever done that in old C programming in Windows.
But you still need to compile whatever library.
Right. So it's the idea is we're kicking the ball down the road a little bit with it. If we did that, but we're also hoping that given what that is, there are some people who would like to bring NodeFFI into core. There are some problems with doing that as well, but that could be one possible solution if we could get all those pieces to fall into place. The real problem with it, though, at least for us, is that using FFI is about 2 orders of magnitude slower than calling it straight from C in a normal native module. So it's a pretty major performance hit, which is just a known thing with FFI. It's slower. Just like reflection in Java is slower as well, and C# is also slower. But that was another approach that we had investigating. I feel like we've sort of settled on, at least for Node serial port, getting the things we need into Node core, well, libv and Node core, so that we don't have to, we can just write pure JavaScript that way. But that's going to be a slow process. I think that's basically where we're at. I'm trying to remember. Jacob, is there anything else you can remember that we've been chatting about on this? And just kind of around this general topic. All right. I think that's probably all we have to talk about technically today. Next time I'll try and build up a better agenda for this first. I apologize, I've been very busy and I haven't put a lot of time into creating an agenda, but we'll try and create a good agenda for next time. What does everyone... Oh yes, that's right, that's right. Windows test boxes for Node serial port. I've seen a few emails going back and forth with Rick and the contacts at Microsoft. The idea on this is Windows is one of our big pain points, especially across all the different versions. And we all develop on Mac, so we don't test Windows as much and stuff crops up, so we want to get a little CI around that. And I get the impression that's been progressing slowly, but still progressing. We don't have anything actually set up and running yet, but it does seem like progress is being made on that. I'll reach out to Rick as well to get a status update on that. And I'll try and post that to the notes for this meeting as well. Yes, yes.
Are virtual machines an option, or too slow, or?
The concern is actually not around slowness per se, but the fact that there's just a layer sitting between hardware in the VM. I think some people are open to it. I personally don't actually have an opinion myself. I think VM should work fine, but there's I think some things need to be just vetted out first. But I don't really have a lot of insight into that, unfortunately. But I think the idea is they would be using Azure to do so, which of course is VM based. But it's still Windows kernel on Windows kernel as opposed to something else. Yeah, the big thing is we just want good CI from that. So what does everyone think about this meeting time? I know we had kind of a small turnout today. Does this work well for you, or was this kind of a tricky time for any of you?
I'm really flexible, so.
Okay. And Sandeep, Jacob, did this work well for you?
Yeah, it's a good time for me, and I'm pretty flexible as well.
Okay. Sandeep, is there anything you would like to add? Anything you've researched, or just thoughts, questions you had around this?
So I guess when we met at JSConf, there was a open question about using GPL with FFI.
Correct. Oh, right, yes.
So for me, that's no longer a concern because I stopped using a GPL library with Noble. So
Okay.
So I think that can be lower priority from my perspective.
Okay, and if I remember correctly, Francis Gulati did some research into that and found that it's usually not an issue as long as we just don't distribute the code, at least with GPL2 stuff. So if we put in GPL code from, say, npm dynamically at install time, then that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
Hi, David. Thanks for joining. We can't hear you, David. Is your mic muted?
How about now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Yeah, so I've been listening in. I just wanted to join in and say, yeah, this time works for me. I just had a one-time conflict today.
Okay, great, great. So we've just been kind of getting caught up and everything. Is there anything you kind of wanted to add or bring up? Any questions, research, anything?
No, nothing specific today.
Okay, cool. All right, I think, is there anything, last minute things anyone else wants to bring up?
I guess I was just kind of wondering how I could help out. I'm not. I don't have much skill or desire on the C or C++ end of things. So, if there's any JavaScript or even just soft stuff I could help with, just let me know.
Okay. Well, tell me a little more. I don't think we've actually met in person yet. Tell me a little more about your background. Like, where does your passion and interest lie?
Well, right now I'm kind of I picked up hardware about 9 months ago, and I'm just really interested in doing what I can with Node and all the little devices around my house. So I mean, home automation is a big thing for me, and yeah, I've used Johnny 5 quite a bit, and so Node serial port a little bit directly, but yeah, that's kind of where my interest is.
Okay. Well, actually, this is great since you're quite a bit newer to this. What are some of the pain points that you've experienced? Or things that you got hung up on that seemed a lot harder than they should be?
Well, off the top of my head, things that aren't necessarily the fault of Node.js. Just things like I do a lot of work with AT-Tiny85 devices.
Mm-hmm.
So serial port, definitely a challenge there. I mean, I imagine you could do some sort of crazy bit banging stuff to talk to it, but I'm not there yet. So, working on, I would like to see some more movement in Fermata, but I mean, I don't know if you guys have any interest in that or not.
There are a few of us that have, not so much me myself. I tend to be on the more organizing side of things. I think Jacob, who just dropped, it seems, has done some work on that. David, do you have any thoughts? Which looks like we may have lost David as well.
He's kind of frozen in place, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, that's something that we can follow up with next time. How about that? We'll make that an action point for the next meeting.
Alrighty.
Okay. Great. All right. If there's nothing else, I want to say thank you, everyone, for joining in on this working group. Hopefully, we can get, like I said, a good cadence on this, and I'll see you all in a month.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye, everyone.